Mr. Muhammad Junaid will discuss the intersections between research and journalism. Mr. Muhammad Junaid is a renowned Pakistani news anchor and reporter currently working for Geo News. Mr. Junaid has made a name for himself in the journalism industry with his exceptional reporting skills and charismatic on-screen presence. Please join me in welcoming him.
सबको इस कॉन्फ्रेंस में खुशामदीद बहुत शुक्रिया मेरे इस बहुत ही खूबसूरत तारुफ का It's really an honor to be here. Congratulations to International Communication Association, FC College, University, my alma mater, Dr. Jonathan Addleton, Dr. Douglas Trimble, Dr. Salim Abbas Kesser, Dr. Firas Jabi. Thank you so much. And I think when we had this conference in December last year, I was just thinking it should have been replaced with this one because this aligns more with the climate situation going on in Pakistan. And not only congratulations to all the organizers, but hats off to all the people who are wearing suits in this summer. I have worn suits since I was 4 years old. There are photo evidences. And then after joining television news, I've been wearing suit almost every day. But yesterday, I realized that there are some things you have to give up in order to achieve peace and comfort. So I had a first meeting with Dr. Salim Abbas and I saw him in the safari suit. And I think that was the most refreshing and pleasant thing yesterday I saw. Otherwise, it was so hot that I was thinking that a climate section could have been added to this conference very easily, whatever is going on. So I lived 25 years of my life in Lahore before I moved to Karachi. Zahid Bilal Sahab is also one of my teachers. And this heat and this weather, I never had a chance to experience this. So coming back to Lahore from Karachi, although I keep visiting Lahore, but for especially this purpose in summer, I think this June has just given me a biggest shock of my life, that how weather is changing and affecting our towns, our cities, our environment, our people. That's just unbelievable. So that justifies so many things in my own mind when we were here last December, that how important it was to talk about climate, and that happened at the platform of FCCU. That's wonderful. So this topic, research and journalism, I mean, there are few things really, really funny about this thing. If you walk in a newsroom of a television channel or even a newspaper these days, if you ask this, I think they'll immediately throw you out because this does not belong in newsrooms. This does not belong in a television channel these days, not because they have something against it, but everything is about currency now. What is current? What is happening right now? The only value you end up giving to research or facts backed by research in journalism, in something when you're presenting on television or going to publish in a newspaper or magazine, is when something has happened historically. Otherwise, in your daily life, in everyday news, in all the issues we cover, health, politics, sports, international affairs, crime, there's complete absence of idea of researching and backing it up with your research skills or whatever mechanism or tools are available. So I'm not from academics, but the only good thing is that I'm a product of academics. I studied at this college. I studied at Punjab University with Zahid Bilal Sahab, with Sobia Saiba, and many other teachers who some of them have left us. We had a lot of discussion about Dr. Muhisuddin Sheikh. So I think some of us or many of us can give this credit of understanding modern journalism and becoming a real passionate professional journalist is much dedication and much credit to Dr. Muhisuddin Sheikh, late, who's passed away, who's not with us. And I think that was the period in time when we could grab all this thing. I don't know what happened after that. The influx, the amount of channels, the amount of newspapers, the amount of craze among the youth that they just have to become like a news anchor or come on TV. And is there a crash course for that? There was no crash course for that. There will never be. But yes, there are people who are lawyers, who are doctors, who are probably they've done masters in English, and they can very well become a presenter and anchor. But in the form of journalism, that was not the craze there. So there was always a process for that. How you have to go through things, how you have to take everything step by step, how you have to understand the essence of what you're doing, what you're trying to study. So we had this very interesting course at Masters, but it was about journalism. It was Masters in journalism. It was radio and television broadcasting. But we had teachers coming in, teaching us other sciences, social sciences, English literature. And I remember Dr. Mujahid Mansoori, we had lectures with him for the international affairs. So, briefly, the discussion I had with Dr. Salim Abbas yesterday is that any discipline, whether it's psychology, engineering, botany, chemistry, medical science, anyone can come up and talk about their profession and their expertise. The experience, the exposure, and the ideas combined, which can be done by a journalist, is almost impossible in any other discussion. It's only a journalist who can report on NASA and also on Iran and Israel conflict or whatever happening against Palestinians or India or Pakistan's conflict. A person who studied chemistry or a surgeon or cardiologist or a lawyer, it's not always possible to look at that perspective. So I think from the days we learned, I think I saw the relationship between the practical life and what you study. So it was also one of the opportunities to denounce this idea that whatever is taught in the university has nothing to do with the practical life of a journalist. That's obviously proven wrong by a lot of us, obviously including me. But I think, yes, the time we were able to spend to study scholastic journalism, one of the books, and the complete reporter, all the students here should try to refer to these books because that help you build the base in order to be prepared once you go in practical life. And there are days when you will forget that this is a noble profession. Journalism एक मुकद्दस पेशा है. ये सिर्फ एक कमर्शियल अपॉर्चुनिटी नहीं है जिंदगी में आगे बढ़ने के लिए. So when we try to remember these things, then probably we can go back to that idea that how knowing about the topic you're speaking, even on television or writing in newspaper, is important. So सबसे जो बड़ा खतरा है पाकिस्तान में सच को, वो फेक न्यूज़ से है. और इस फेक न्यूज़ का शिकार होने वाले शायद यहाँ भी बहुत से लोग हों. वो इस तरह हुए होंगे शिकार that it might not be about them, but it might be about something they care. And they were told, things which were not based on facts or a fake news told about that. So मैं भी इसकी example हूँ. I was never married in my entire life until 2nd June last year in 2024 when I had my nikah. My wife's name is Amina. She's from Karachi. And there is a person who lives in Lahore, runs a YouTube channel. She did a vlog on her YouTube channel declaring that Mr. Junaid had been married before. That's fine. That can be a confusion or someone misreported to that lady. I was never married. But she went on to tell where he got married first and what was the venue and what was the wedding hall and everything. And my family watched it. A lot of people saw and they all knew that that's not true. Thanks that they realized and trusted. But they said, like, how is this possible that a lady can just stand up and go on a YouTube and start talking about these things and which is not true? So my wife was also watching it and she was laughing that now I understand that how people in news are also subject to this fake news. So I spoke to a couple of people in Lahore and I talked about this lady and they said कि वो बहुत अरसे से fake news फैला रही हैं. उनके खिलाफ बहुत शिकायतें हो चुकी हैं. But ये एक लंबा process है. You have to speak to FIA and do this and do that. तो just ignore. कुछ दिन के बाद खत्म हो जाएगा. It'll be over. And I think this is true that until something happens to you, to your country, to your people, to yourself, you don't really realize the extent of absence of research and fact finding in everything we're doing in our daily lives. So at that moment, I realized that, okay, this is happening with so many people. This is happening with our politicians, with our sports person. There are fake news every day on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, and there is literally no check and balance. There is no accountability unless and until there is a government entity which goes against some person, and obviously they can use law enforcement, police, and everyone, and they can get hold of them. So in today's world where we're standing, and I'm part of Geo News, which is the largest television network and media house with its newspaper and publications, I think they have contributed the most in last 20 years. I have also worked for 20 years, 3 years in training and 17 years on TV as a news presenter, as a reporter, as a transmission presenter. They have backed it up as much as possible through Jung Forum, through Geometry, which was on Geo News for several years, which was just one of the best examples of television research, how they went into detail and spent phenomenal resources and dedicated teams to work on that, which obviously now obsolete because it doesn't broadcast anymore. There's not much viewership for that. The problem is the commercialization and the fast track life we're living in. Newspapers are still alive, but if something happens right now, you can't publish in a newspaper. You have to wait the whole day to prepare the news and file it at night, and then only a bunch of people will be able to see next morning in the newspapers. Although there are still very respectable newspapers in Pakistan. So that has been only covered by the same medium, which is the problem in this situation. The new media, which was internet, and then the digital media, and now everyone keeps talking about artificial intelligence. And I heard Dr. Noshir, contractor, was also speaking about it. It was part of his topic. We realized just one thing in the recent conflict between India and Pakistan. There was a big stand out for like 10 days, and every channel had their own transmission, and obviously Geo News also was leading from the front. We realized one thing for all of you. This might be a news, or you might already know that artificial intelligence has completely failed to differentiate between the fake news and a correct, verified, original source of news. So we tried it during our news coverage, before and after, whatever was happening in India. That was an unfortunate situation. But also, it gave us an opportunity to tell the whole world how Pakistan's media has become responsible once again. I would like to be really honest. It was unfortunately not responsible 10 years ago, but it has come back to the part of the responsibility we all bear while we're working in journalism. So, whatever was happening in India, we were in Karachi, and according to all the Indian media, everything was destroyed already in Karachi. So, some of our friends who were in US and UK and Europe, they messaged like, "For us, you guys are dead. We're watching television, and you are dead. So everything you have told us about Karachi, it's in ashes right now." So and then obviously we joked about it. What do you mean? It's like it's all over Indian media. What are you guys doing about it? And we explained to some of the people that we're still taking the responsibility in going against these things, because we don't want like sarcasm and taunting in a way, but we want to just review it realistically, that how Indian media has reached this point that they're showing Karachi port tabah ho gaya hai, aag lagi hui hai, Karachi airport tabah ho chuka hai, shole nikal rahe hain sab. That was not true. Obviously, I was in Karachi. There are 3 nights when I did not go home with Shahzeb Khanzada sahab as well. There, war started. We stayed the whole night. We went back home in the morning and then came back in the afternoon as well. I think that helped everyone in the news channels administration, which people criticize a lot. There are a lot of people who generously criticize the big channels and the big newspapers. I had a chat with Professor Adil Ahmed Amir, who was my senior in Punjab University. He was also speaking about some of the experience where he was extremely unhappy or in a complete disagreement with what Jung Group or the news or Geo News was doing as a news channel. But he was also able to admit it and acknowledge it, that how this whole conflict gave us an opportunity to realize that this whole cause is not lost on us. Whatever you scholars, teachers, and everyone part of this process is doing in universities and colleges. Obviously, I think the fair practice also comes with your training. You have to be honest if you want to just establish that whatever you're trying to do is you're trying to do it right. You're trying to find the facts. So the thing is this: right now there is a crazy war going on uh, among the Pakistani media news channels to be the first person, to be the first news channel, to be the first news outlet, to be the first website to give the news or give the breaking news or whatever situation is going on. So I think in Pakistan it's very difficult to define this, that in the practical scenario of journalism, there will be some space for research. I will give you examples. That's why I did not prepare any presentation, because I'm living example of how these things have happened. And obviously you watch on TV. I think in practical journalism, in television and newspaper, the space and the importance is of fact finding and investigative journalism. Only the news has that section, because Ansar Abbasi, who's a renowned journalist, is also introduced as the senior journalist and editor, investigative journalism, the news. They go after facts, they find and dig. That probably can be defined as research. They're trying to dig out the stuff and then backed by the facts and evidences they have to publish any news, to present any news. And obviously when they publish in the newspaper, that's relayed on television and on website, and everyone watches in the whole world and they know what has happened. So outside Pakistan, I can only give an example of Al Jazeera, which is a Doha based news organization. They are doing this through their website and digital media research, not the fact finding. They've done extensive coverage on Hajj, taking it back to 100 years ago and telling what was happening in Makkah and Medina. 100 साल पहले क्या हो रहा था, 50 साल पहले क्या हो रहा था, 25 साल पहले क्या हो रहा और आज क्या हो रहा है. That is a beautiful example of journalism research, which is happening in the hub of a modern television channel, which has no newspaper. They have a website and channel and maybe a few other mediums, but not a publication or not a newspaper. New York Times does that. Washington Post does that. There is one, The Atlantic does that. There's this guy, Patrick, who's also a marathon runner. He is the CEO of Atlantic and he writes in Wire as well. So they go back to the stories. Like if they're going regarding the mayoral election of New York, so they're digging it out कि पिछले 50 साल में कितने मेयर रहे हैं, कौन सा मेयर ज्यू था, कौन सा क्रिश्चियन था, कोई मुस्लिम मेयर था, इमिग्रेंट कौन सा था, अमेरिका में कौन से पैदा हुआ, इटालियन डिसेंट का कौन सा था. तो उन सब चीज़ों की अहमियत है, बट पाकिस्तान में इन चीज़ों की स्पेस नहीं है. इफ़ वी कंडक्ट दिस रिसर्च इन अ न्यूज़ चैनल, where are we going to use it? We don't have that medium, we don't have that time, we don't have the viewers, we don't have the readers. I have no idea how many of you had a chance to read the newspaper this morning before coming to this conference. Some people do read newspaper, but not every day. They forget, they don't have time, they have to reach somewhere, they're in the traffic. There is not that kind of peace which existed or prevailed in this country 20 years ago. Everything is in a rush. So then you want like fast-paced things. You want like news on your mobile, news on your text messages coming, or you want to go on the website and see everything there, because that gives you more access. I know people who used to have like at least 3 or 4 books to read in 6 month period. Now they have that Kindle, so they don't have any paper books. Although the paper book sales went up last year somehow miraculously, maybe COVID effect and everything. So this space we are trying to compete and manage in any newsroom or any newspaper or television, that does not give us the room, an opportunity to go in research. I can give you some day-to-day examples. We have all our lives heard about some of the Indian entities. Let's say, even when I was in college, Dr. Salim Abbas, really taught us about some of the historic events and the importance. So we used to speak about India, and I think we had few conversations about Shiv Sena and Bal Thackeray. He was a famous guy, right? I don't know if the young generation knows about Bal Thackeray, but everyone else know. We know Bal Thackeray, what Shiv Sena did in India, what RSS ideology is. आप आपस में बात कर लें, अभी आपसे हम बात करेंगे, वो कहेंगे वो इंतहा पसंद हैं, वो हिंदुत्व को फ़रोग देते हैं जो सही नहीं है, इंडियन आइडियोलॉजी के भी ख़िलाफ़ है, बिकॉज वो तो सेकुलरिज्म पे बेस्ड थी. But if you put someone on a stand here, just even right now, if Dr. Zahid Bilal or Dr. Salim Abbas or Dr. Firasat say that if you've heard so much about him in the news, can you give us like a brief about him for like 20 minutes? I can't. I don't know anything about Bal Thackeray. So a news presenter or a program anchor or a person who has to deliver a breaking news, they are in the worst possible difficult spot in the world when they're sitting on a desk on a hot seat and something like that happens. You just find out a minute ago that Bal Thackeray has died. He's dead. And you have to talk about him. You have to tell what he has done all his life. He was an old guy. He lived more than several years. So you have to talk about his politics, about his actions, and about view the world has about this person. Even if Amitabh passes away one day, a young person who becomes an anchor in this country cannot speak about Amitabh Bachchan for 30 minutes, except 2 movies or 3 songs, and that's it. What can you tell about him? There, the importance of research and reading comes in action on a live television, which your whole household is watching, the whole world is watching. And obviously, there are a lot of other channels who are doing good job, but Geo News, uh, in a technical way, is most viewed channel in this Pakistan. So, achai bhi hai when you're doing some great, people are watching, and when you do something really bad, people are also watching it. They're ready to abuse you. That we watched, and you said these things, and they're horrible. And if you were not our friend, we would have just hated you and everything. So, if you have read about these people as a responsible journalist or presenter, which should have been taught to you by your teachers and scholars, कि बेटा पढ़ के जाना, वो काम आती है हमारे इस शोबे में किसी भी प्रैक्टिकल सहाफ़ी के लिए, चाहे वो अखबार का हिस्सा है, चाहे वो टेलीविज़न का हिस्सा है. So yes, it was a shock to a lot of our young people when I had a chance to tell them that Amitabh's mother was born in a place near Faisalabad, and he's been dying to come to Pakistan from the last 30 years. 5 meetings he had with different Pakistan's high commissioners in New Delhi. Only thing he said, I want to go to Faisalabad, which was Lailpur for him when his mother was born. Why? Because he wants to see the place where his mother was born. So these things can actually make you or break you. And it has happened to my colleagues when Yash Chopra died. He was one of the most important figures in the history of Bollywood. But I will tell you a fun fact that he was a family friend of the founders of Jung Group. Mir Khalilur Rahman, his family, and then the editor-in-chief, Mir Shakilur Rahman's himself and his family were close friends with Yash Chopra. And I can only say that I was lucky to have escaped that transmission and that breaking news when he passed away. Everyone liked him, everyone loved him, everyone loved his movies, but they knew nothing about except few movies he made. And that he was crazy about Switzerland's valleys and beautiful songs and people dancing. But where was he born? What his parents did? How he became a filmmaker? How he envisioned this modern cinematic movie industry in Bollywood, and he was known by the entire Hollywood and British cinema? How? Yes, you find out when he's passed away and you have to be on TV and you have to talk about it. What is going to back you up? Any research you have done about him, if you have read about him, if you had chance to read books about him, if you ever thought I should, compile a paper on Yashraj and the Bollywood and everything, only then anyone can save you. उस वक्त आपको अल्लाह ताला समेत कोई आपकी वहाँ मदद करने के लिए दस्तयाब नहीं है, बिकॉज आप इतने बुरे तरीके से फंस जाते हैं. फिर आपको याद आता है कि आपके वालदैन आपसे क्या कहते थे. योर टीचर्स यूज्ड टू टेल दैट यू शुड बी प्रिपेयर्ड, and when you're not prepared, then you realize, okay, no, this is wrong. So the people who still have the background of journalism, they studied journalism and they became presenters and anchors and program hosts and news hosts, they still realize the value of this thing. And that's why we are here today. So much great work is done, so much wonderful things are taught here. And so I had survived through all such occasions. And I don't know if it was Yash Chopra or Bal Thackeray situation, which I was not in that breaking news, but I was in Osama bin Laden's breaking news. I was in India-Pakistan war breaking news. I was in APS terrorist attack in Peshawar breaking news. I was in several terror attacks in Pakistan's breaking news. So yes, if you know the facts, if you know the history, if you know what has happened in last 1 year, if you know what has happened in last 25 years, 10 years, only then you can become a very responsible journalism, a very responsible presenter, a very, very responsible reporter, which all the teachers who are teaching their students, if they know that some of them are going to represent eventually the profession of journalism, they want them to be responsible. But how can we just make it possible? I think there's only way forward is the educational institute and all such departments and universities should be able to work closely with the media houses in Pakistan, which probably happens in all other countries. It happens a lot in US. There are a lot of people sitting in this hall who have studied or gone and work in the American universities. It happens in UK as well, but Pakistan में ऐसा कोई mechanism नहीं है कि टेलीविज़न और न्यूज़पेपर चलाने वाले के दरमियान और यूनिवर्सिटी और कॉलेज का जो सेटअप और मैकेनिज्म है उनके दरमियान कोई लिएज़ॉन हो और वो आपस में रिसर्च और डेवलपमेंट पे काम कर रहे हो. I think they already expect that if students studied in the university, they would be all prepared and everything, which is fair expectation. Of course, if I've spent 4 or 5 or 6 years in a university, I should be prepared for something. But I think there was a big notion at that time when I was graduating and going to start the practical life. I started in Lahore with Express News. That whatever you taught in the universities had nothing to do with what you're going to do in real life, which was not true. Whatever I learned, I was the biggest beneficiary of that when I started working in a newsroom or in any international assignment or being on TV. So that's the thing. Fake news is one of the biggest problem. One of our colleagues, Benazir Shah, was supposed to attend this conference, but she had other responsibilities to look after. She is running a section which is working as a fact-finding department. Their job is just to identify disturbing fake news and to put out the facts that ये खबर गलत है, ऐसा कुछ नहीं हुआ. As Raza Rumi Sahab was also mentioning, you get the heat when your own family is victim of that. He was telling his mother is sending him the messages. So it happens a lot in my circle, in my friends and family and all such people who keep telling कि ये जी वाक़या हो गया जी, वो जी फलां बंदा मर गया. नहीं मरा, अभी कल ही मेरी उससे बात हुई है, he is alive. So कई दफ़ा बड़े ज़िम्मेदार इदारों से भी गलतियाँ हो चुकी हैं कि बहुत से लोगों के बारे में ख़बर चली गई ऐसी जो कि सच पर मबनी नहीं. फिर उन्होंने माजरत की, हर गलती से सीखा और सीखने के बाद मेरे ख्याल से हम इस नतीजे पे पहुँचे हैं जो आप में से कुछ भी लोगों ने अगर देखी 1 मई से 11 मई के दौरान जो ट्रांसमिशन थी. Let's take example of Geo News also because we got the most feedback and appreciation and respect also. It also happened because of so many mistakes of in a situation where there is a competition to just go fast. ये हो गया, ये मार दिया, ये गिरा दिया, ये हो गया. So now, what is the way to verify a news when we're going to present it on television? Is that you check with multiple sources. और हमारे मुल्क में ज़्यादातर खबरें धमाके और ऐसी ही होती थी बहुत, अब शुक्र है कम हो गई, लेकिन ये खबर भी सिर्फ इसी तरह शुरू होती कि हमने एक आवाज़ सुनी, we heard a big bang, ओ जी धमाका हो गया, अब चलाना टीवी. So now what newsrooms are doing, they're doing fact checking, cross check, they're speaking to reporters, they're calling the bureaus, the cities, the people and the family and contact, and obviously responsible official version as well. So one incident which is now public, I can tell you that in this whole conflict between India and Pakistan, two of the very responsible people in this country who are on very big positions, I cannot name them for some reason, they messaged me and they said, we have heard about this Jam Shoro thing, Bhalari. मैंने कहा आपको पता है कि पाकिस्तान की 75% आबादी को ये भी नहीं पता कि बोलारी क्या है, ये है कहाँ पे बोलारी. They would know about Jamshoro, but बोलारी का उन्हें नहीं पता. So people are not crazy about these things. You don't have to worry. They said, no, there is this news and this has happened. Why your channel is not running that news? And I had to explain to them that there is a mechanism, there is a process. It comes from top to bottom or goes from top to bottom, from bottom to top. टॉप से आएगी तो भी नीचे आने तक वेरीफाई होगी, नीचे से जाएगी तो भी ऊपर तक जाते जाते वेरीफाई की जाएगी. So they don't have the verified information, and also there is a rule in the forces and in the security that if a security personnel or an armed forces person has died, or he's a martyr or she's a martyr, you cannot break that news before informing their families. If anyone has anyone in forces, relatives, cousin, parents or someone, they would know. If a pilot has died or if a soldier has died, the first and foremost responsibility, unless and until it happened in a situation where everyone knew on the spot, the first responsibility is to inform their family. Their family cannot be sitting at home and finding out their brother has died in war. They cannot. They have to be informed first, and then it can become part of the news. But you can imagine, as the scholars and the students who are still learning, there is unbelievable hunger for the news. Everyone wants to know. अगर एक पायलट शहीद हो गया है तो वो उस पायलट के घर वालों को नहीं पता हो, हमें सबसे पहले पता हो कि ये हुआ है या नहीं हुआ है. So obviously the Pakistan media was very responsible. They played their best possible role, and they only verified and waited until the facts came in. It was responsibly handed over to them that this incident has happened and these people have lost their lives, and then they presented that news. Otherwise, obviously, it can cause embarrassment and it can cause pain to the people who are watching, who are directly affected from such news. So this is what my learning is in last, especially 10 years, which has been fast digital media time, all the digital platforms and now AI. Yes, it might be really amazing to help build a research mechanism, but the fact finding and the fact verification, the AI is not really doing an amazing job right now. And we ran a detailed report on television that how AI cannot be the source to find the facts or verify the facts, because it cannot differentiate between a fake news presented on a digital platform or a news platform or published in a newspaper, or in comparison with the news which is verified, which is based on the facts. So this is what's going on right now. But I think in next 5 years there can be some responsibility or some mechanism which channels and newspapers is also they will be able to adopt and be able to go back to some of the basic systems we used to have in place to respect the process of research, an idea of teaching the students to learn how they have to first find the fact before presenting it to other people. I cannot actually differentiate. The last thing I'm going to say is like how we've been trained. When people tell me that they've been scammed on phone, they've been scammed on internet, they've been scammed through a scheme, or they were told this fake news and they saw on the website and they already believe, it's very difficult for me because I've never been scammed. I just don't know how to explain because no one can actually make me fool on a phone call. कि जी ये आपका इनाम निकला है. And the kind of people get fooled by these things, and then the fake piece of news presented to them, and they are just ready to believe it. So I think it has a lot to do with the training in the universities, in the colleges, in the forums, in such conferences where you enable people to think in that process. It's very difficult for us sometimes because our first question is like, how is this possible? How did you believe that? I heard Raza Rumi was saying like he's even asking his mother to please switch on a reliable television channel and watch it. That person has not been killed. Prime Minister has not been killed or President has not been killed. So I think this overview can give you another fair idea how you can actually work with your students in the classrooms and actually teach them what can be beneficial to be able to be responsible when they enter into journalism. Research skills, yes. I think a person who goes into a practical career, they practically forget like after 5 years how to conduct like a research. So I remember the term papers, and if you're like doing your thesis and research, when you go in a practical life, if you become a banker, if you become like a news presenter or a full-time journalist, you basically forget these things. So there should be some whistleblowers. It can be your teacher, it can be your boss, or it can be a scenario which should be able to always remind you that भाई आपकी असल बुनियाद और आपकी असल तरीक़ाकार क्या है काम करने का. तो वो अगर याद रखा जाए, सो मेरे ख़्याल से हम पाकिस्तान में पहले ही अपने इस रीजन में बहुत बेहतर जगह पे खड़े हैं. हमारी सहाफ़त में फिर भी ज़िम्मेदारी एक हद तक वापस आ गई है दोबारा एज़ कम्पेयर टू व्हाट हैज़ हैपेंड टू इंडियन मीडिया एंड लॉट ऑफ अदर कंट्रीज़. So that can be there are a lot of funny incidents, there are a lot of painful and hilarious incidents have happened around the fake news and the research was in question, but I think we are still doing okay. We're not that bad. And जब से पिछले एक साल में कुछ बेहतरी आई है तो लोग जो बहुत फ़ोन करके बुरा भला कहते थे चैनल्स को अखबारात को वो बहुत हद तक कम हो गया. So that's all from my side, and I think it can lead to some good practices in coming years. And we can have few questions if anyone wants to ask anything about how the news works and what happens in a newsroom when a breaking news just reaches the newsroom. So thank you.